Hello, everyone. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of creatures that can vanish right before our eyes, disguise themselves as rocks or seaweed, and even demonstrate a level of intelligence once thought to belong only to mammals. Of course, we're talking about octopuses.
That's right. And the more scientists study these marine inhabitants, the more discoveries they make. Octopuses belong to the order Octopoda. They are cephalopod mollusks, close relatives of squids and cuttlefish. To date, around 300 species have been described, and the list is constantly growing, since the ocean depths still hide countless secrets.
Their size diversity is truly astonishing. There's the tiny starsucker pygmy octopus, whose body length doesn't exceed 1.5 centimeters, smaller than a pinky fingernail. And then there's its complete opposite, the giant Pacific octopus, which can stretch its arms more than 4 meters wide and weigh over 270 kilograms. Just imagine a sea creature the size of a small car, yet still able to squeeze through a narrow crack as long as its beak can fit.
You can encounter them almost everywhere, from the warm coastal waters of the Mediterranean and the coral reefs of Indonesia to the icy depths of Antarctica. Their lack of bones and internal air cavities is exactly what allows them to withstand tremendous pressure. At such depths, it's comparable to the weight of a school bus pressing on every square centimeter of your body.
And if we look at cultural history, people have perceived octopuses as something eerie and mysterious for centuries. In Scandinavian legends, there's the kraken, a giant mollusk that sank ships. In 19th century Japanese art, you'll find rather unusual depictions of octopuses that also emphasize their enigmatic nature. And while in reality they're far from sea monsters, it's precisely their mysteriousness that made them the subject of countless myths.
And here's the key point. Most animals rely on just one or two survival traits. Say, eagles have sharp vision and talons, sharks have teeth and speed, but octopuses come equipped with an entire arsenal: incredible body flexibility, the ability to change skin color and texture, a venomous bite, the power to release an ink cloud, and most importantly, advanced intelligence. And today, we're going to explore each of these traits.
Exactly. So let's move on and take a closer look at how their bodies are structured, and why the anatomy of an octopus is unlike any other creature on the planet.
Well then, let's take a look at the octopus as a kind of biological machine. Its body is so unusual that many researchers compare it to an alien being. Let's start with the most important thing: the heart. An octopus has 3 of them. 2 pump blood through the gills, and 1 circulates it through the rest of the body. Interestingly, when the octopus swims, the main heart that drives blood around the body temporarily stops. That's why it's easier for these animals to crawl along the seafloor than to swim actively. They tire less that way.
And here's another remarkable detail. Their blood isn't red like ours, but blue. The reason is that in humans, oxygen is carried by iron-based hemoglobin, whereas in octopuses, it's carried by hemocyanin, which contains copper. This pigment colors the blood blue and works much more efficiently in cold, oxygen-poor water. That's why octopuses can thrive both in tropical seas and in Antarctic waters.
Now let's move on to the nervous system. The octopus brain is complex and relatively large compared to its body size, but the most surprising fact is that up to 2/3 of all its neurons are not in the head at all, but in its arms. Each of the 8 arms can be thought of as a mini computer, capable of making decisions without input from the central brain. This explains why even a severed octopus limb continues to move and respond to touch.
Their arms are covered with thousands of suction cups, and each one isn't just a sticky disc, it's a highly sensitive organ. They can detect the taste and smell of whatever they touch. You could say that an octopus tastes the world with its hands. Moreover, a single sucker can hold a load weighing several kilograms. Imagine the strength when you multiply that by hundreds of such mini suckers.
Speaking of arms, if an octopus loses one, say while escaping from a predator, it can fully regenerate it. And not just a shortened stump like a lizard's regrown tail, but a complete, functional limb. Scientists have found that a particular enzyme, acetylcholinesterase, plays a key role in regeneration. Its activity peaks a few weeks after injury, and that's when tissues undergo the most active rebuilding.
An octopus also has a kind of weapon, its beak, which resembles a parrot's beak. It's the only hard part of their body. Everything else is soft and flexible. Thanks to this, an octopus can squeeze through an opening no bigger than a coin, as long as its beak fits through. That same beak is used to crack open the shells of mollusks and crabs. And along with it comes saliva containing toxins that paralyze their prey.
And we can't forget about the eyes. They are huge, with vertical pupils, and their vision rivals that of humans. What's fascinating is that octopus and human eyes evolved independently. This is an example of so-called convergent evolution. In other words, nature invented almost the same solution twice for completely different species. Yet, octopuses cannot see colors. They perceive the world in shades of light and shadow, and choose camouflage based on brightness and contrast. There's a theory that they can detect the polarization of light, which might help them guess colors they themselves cannot see.
And here's another curious feature. While they don't have bones, they do have powerful muscles, and their bodies function like a kind of hydraulic system. This allows them to bend, stretch, and slip into the most unbelievable crevices. No wonder they're called escape artists. There are cases of octopuses in aquariums sneaking out through a filtration pipe that seemed completely impassable.
To sum it all up, we have an animal with 3 hearts, blue blood, a brain spread throughout its arms, and a body that can squeeze into almost any space. That alone makes the octopus a truly unique creature, unlike any other. But the most exciting part is still ahead, because their arsenal of defense mechanisms deserves a story of its own.
Yes, it's precisely camouflage, venom, and the ability to shed an arm that have made the octopus a true master of survival in the ocean. Let's take a closer look at that. If there are true masters of special effects in the animal kingdom, it's octopuses. Their arsenal of defensive tricks is so rich that honestly, any Hollywood director would envy it.
I agree. Let's start with the most famous defense, camouflage. Octopuses can change not only the color, but even the texture of their skin in just fractions of a second. And it's not just camouflage like a chameleon's, but a full ability to merge with the environment. The mechanism works thanks to special cells, chromatophores filled with pigments. When the muscles around them contract, the pigments spread and color the skin.
Even more fascinating, an octopus can not only change its color, but also make its skin rough, cover it with bumps, folds, and even spines. This allows it, for example, to imitate coral or a rock. And although octopuses can't see colors, they somehow manage to match their camouflage with astonishing accuracy. One hypothesis suggests that they can see polarized light, while another proposes that their skin itself can detect color signals, acting like an additional sensory organ.
When they relax, the color disappears, and the pinnacle of camouflage evolution is the mimic octopus from Indonesia. It can imitate not only objects, but also other animals. Imagine, in one moment it's a flat flounder, the next, a venomous sea snake, and a minute later, a fierce lionfish with poisonous spines. And all of this happens in just seconds of transformation.
But if camouflage doesn't work, the octopus has a plan B, the ink cloud. When threatened, it releases a dense dark cloud that not only blocks the predator's vision, but also literally confuses its senses. The ink contains amino acids and compounds that irritate sensory organs. What's more, in many fish, this mixture temporarily slows down nervous activity. In other words, the predator lags for a moment, and the octopus has just enough time to escape.
If camouflage doesn't work, the octopus has a plan B, the ink cloud. When in danger, it releases a thick, dark liquid that not only blocks the predator's vision, but also literally scrambles its senses. The ink contains amino acids and compounds that irritate sensory organs. What's more, in many fish, this mixture temporarily slows nervous processes. In other words, the predator freezes for a moment, and in that time, the octopus makes its escape.
There are even cases where the ink acts as a decoy. Instead of chasing the octopus, the predator lingers around the cloud because it smells like potential prey. It's like throwing a smoke bomb but adding the aroma of grilled meat. The enemy gets distracted, and you make your getaway.
There are even cases where the ink acts as bait. Instead of continuing the chase, the predator lingers near the cloud because it smells like potential prey. It's like throwing a smoke grenade but adding the aroma of grilled meat. The enemy gets distracted, and you get away.
But the defensive tricks don't end there. Octopuses also have venom. All species possess toxic saliva, but the standout is the blue-ringed octopus. It's tiny, about the size of a golf ball, but its venom is tens of thousands of times more potent than cyanide. A bite can paralyze a human's breathing in just minutes. Interestingly, this octopus looks quite cute, but when threatened, its skin flashes with bright blue rings, a clear warning. Stay away.
Fortunately, fatal cases are extremely rare, and usually a person has a chance to survive if help is given quickly. But for marine animals, an encounter with this tiny predator almost always ends in tragedy.
And there's one more trick: autotomy, the ability to shed a limb. If a predator grabs one of its arms, the octopus can detach it and swim away. The arm continues to wriggle for several minutes, distracting the enemy. And within a couple of months, a brand new arm grows back, just as good as the old one.
All of this together makes the octopus a true master of survival. It's not the fastest swimmer, not the biggest predator, but its arsenal of tricks makes it almost impossible to catch. And as if that weren't enough, the octopus has another superpower: intelligence.
All of this combined makes the octopus a true survival master. It's not the fastest swimmer, not the largest predator, but its arsenal of tricks makes it nearly untouchable. And as if that weren't enough, the octopus has one more superpower: intelligence. And that's worth discussing separately. Yes, because the ability to use tools, solve problems, and even stage escapes from aquariums, these are not just reflexes. They're signs of intelligence, even if different from our own. Let's talk about just how smart a sea mollusk can be. We've already seen that the octopus is a true superhero of the ocean, but perhaps its greatest superpower is intelligence. For a long time, it was believed that complex intelligence belonged mostly to mammals: dolphins, elephants, primates. Yet studies in recent decades have shown that octopuses are no less remarkable thinkers, even though their brains are organized in a completely different way.
Yes, that's a very interesting point. The octopus has around 500 million neurons in its head. For comparison, a dog has about 530 million, so the difference isn't that big. But the key feature is that 2/3 of these neurons aren't in the brain at all, but in the arms. This means each arm can think and make decisions on its own. That's why an octopus can multitask. One arm explores an object, another pries open a shell, and a third checks for nearby danger.
And there are plenty of examples of behavior that clearly goes beyond instinct. The most famous case is with the so-called coconut octopuses. They've been observed off the coast of Indonesia. These animals pick up coconut shells, fit the halves together, and use them as portable homes. They literally carry their shelter across the ocean floor. This is essentially tool use, a classic marker of intelligence.
In aquariums, octopuses also display cleverness. They can open jars by unscrewing lids, solve simple puzzles, and find their way out of mazes. There are documented escape attempts that sound more like spy movie plots. In one zoo, an octopus named Inky climbed out of its tank at night, crawled across the floor, reached a drain pipe, and escaped back into the ocean. And all of it without any outside help.
It's also important to note, octopuses get bored easily. In captivity, if they aren't given enough stimulation, they can become destructive. There are known cases of them even biting their own arms out of stress. That's why many aquariums create special playrooms for them, offering toys, puzzles, and sometimes even teaching them simple tricks.
Another fascinating aspect is that they have a form of memory and even learn by observation. In one experiment, octopuses watched others opening jars of food. Later, they solved the same task more quickly themselves, as if copying the behavior. For invertebrates, this is an exceptionally rare trait.
By the way, many researchers also note that octopuses show traces of individuality. Some behave cautiously, others boldly and aggressively. Some display curiosity, others mistrust. It resembles what we would call personality.
And sometimes octopuses interact with humans in the most unexpected ways. In aquariums, there are stories of them deliberately splashing water at staff, turning off lamps, or rearranging objects. At times, it looked like mischief, as if they were doing it on purpose. Some scientists even cautiously suggest that these creatures have basic forms of play and maybe even humor.
That's why debates are growing about whether octopuses should be treated as highly developed animals, like dolphins and primates. In 2021, the United Kingdom even officially recognized them as sentient beings capable of experiencing pain and emotions. This means stricter rules now apply when keeping and studying them.
And the deeper science studies their minds, the more questions arise, because this is intelligence that developed along a completely separate evolutionary path. We are mammals, they are mollusks. Our last common ancestor lived hundreds of millions of years ago, and yet we see in them traits so strikingly similar to our own. It's like looking in a mirror, but seeing a completely different form of life staring back.
And that is truly breathtaking. But like all living creatures, octopuses also have another essential side of life: reproduction. And here too, their biology is astonishing. We've already covered intelligence, camouflage, and anatomy, but there's another side of octopus life that can't be overlooked: reproduction. And here everything is arranged in a very unusual, sometimes even dramatic way.
Yes, starting with the fact that for many species, reproduction is a one-time event. Males, for example, use a specialized arm, the hectocotylus, to transfer a capsule of spermatophores to the female. And in some species, this happens in a radical way. In argonauts, the arm literally detaches and remains with the female. Imagine a detachable penis in action.
After fertilization, the female lays tens of thousands, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of eggs. For example, the giant Pacific octopus may produce up to 400,000. She carefully guards the clutch, fanning it with streams of water to provide oxygen, and during this time, she stops eating. By the time the babies hatch, the mother dies. Her body triggers a self-destruction program. Scientists call this genetically programmed death.
And males don't live long after mating either. Once their biological mission is complete, they soon die. In that sense, octopuses are true tragic heroes of the ocean. Incredible intelligence, unique abilities, but very short lives, just a few years, and in smaller species only a few months.
But the babies begin an independent life literally from the very first seconds. Imagine, tiny octopuses, smaller than a fingernail, immediately start hunting and hiding from predators. Their genetic blueprint already contains the entire arsenal we talked about earlier: camouflage, response to danger, rapid growth.
When it comes to records, octopuses are astonishing here as well. The largest recorded giant Pacific octopus had an arm span of nearly 9 meters. The smallest species are no more than a centimeter. The most venomous are the blue-ringed octopuses, and though tiny, their venom can kill a human within an hour and a half. And the most armed are blanket octopuses, which tear off the stinging tentacles of Portuguese mano, war jellyfish, and wield them like whips.
And of course, octopuses have left their mark on human culture, from ancient myths about sea monsters to modern films and video games. The symbol of the kraken embodies humanity's fear of the unknown ocean. In Japan, the octopus became part of folklore and sometimes even rather unusual artistic themes. In modern science, however, it symbolizes the mystery of intelligence, how a creature so evolutionarily distant from us could achieve such a high level of cognitive complexity.
Today, octopuses are being actively studied by biologists, neurophysiologists, and geneticists. Their ability to regenerate inspires medicine. If we can unlock their secret, perhaps one day humans too will be able to regrow damaged organs. Their unique nervous system helps us understand how different forms of intelligence are structured, and the deeper we look, the more questions arise.
And that, perhaps, is the main point. Octopuses remind us that on our planet, alongside humans, live astonishing forms of life that rival any science fiction story. And by studying them, we learn not only about them, but also about ourselves.
Next time you're at the seaside and notice a quiet movement among the rocks, remember, it might be the watchful eyes of a creature that can vanish, open jars, and even stage daring escapes from aquariums.
And who knows? Perhaps one day, the octopus will become the key to new discoveries in medicine, science, and even philosophy.